Um, First off, I learned last night that Ron Rivera's mother passed away, so I want to send our condolences from me, my family, the McDermotts, and all the people in the Buffalo Bills for Ron and his family. Want to thank our scouts for our pro department really the last few weeks. You know, obviously there's rumors out there and swirling, and we'll get into some of that. But these guys, you know, for us acquiring two players at the end, there's a lot of watching tape, making calls, going through the process, going through contracts, going through everything to pare down what positions we're targeting or what players we're looking into. So those guys did a great job of helping me kind of filter this down to the decisions we made yesterday. Safety-wise, you know, we ended up with Dean Marlowe. You guys are very familiar with Dean. You know, Sean and I had him in Carolina. We got obviously, I think he started 7 or 8 games for us here in his time. Was a fill-in, and if something happened to Jordan and Micah, kind of that third safety. So with Micah being out for the year, and then Jordan still being nicked up and, you know, going to try to work his way back, this gives us a guy who knows our team, our defense, and we probably narrowed it down to about 10 safeties the last few days, and even before Jordan was re-injured the other night, we were still looking at that position, you know, knowing Micah wouldn't be back. So, but ultimately, you know, we just, you know, through all the calls and all the research, we felt like the best fit ended up being Dean, and we made that move yesterday. Running back wise, I know that's been rumored a lot. I'd say a lot of those were probably more rumors than all factual what was out there, but you know, there's a lot of posturing that goes on and leveraging, and a couple of those, you know, I'll get into Nyheim here in a minute, but you know, I know it started with McCaffrey. Yes, that was the last draft. I was there in Carolina, know him well. You know, when you hear he's on the block, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence to not look into that. The process of how we look into things from a scouting standpoint is our scouts they have teams they're responsible for, and they're tracking everything. And when you hear buzzes out there on Twitter, in the media, whatever, that a player may be available, that's their job to turn on the film, evaluate them, and then look into them. And there are times when things get put out there that the Buffalo Bills are after this player. Sometimes I'm not even aware, and I say that in the sense that a scout may have, you know, we may have a scout and he's in charge of the Denver Broncos, and he may call his contact at that team and say, hey, is this guy even available? Should I even mention him? Should I not? Sometimes you never even hear back whether the guy's available or not, and then you read 2 days later that we went after him. And so I say that just to help us all how the process works. You know, that leads me to Alvin Kamara. You know, that was the scouts looking into, you know, they put something out, you know, maybe Philly was in it or someone, I can't remember the team, and checked into it, never actually got an answer whether he was available or not, and then Sunday it's reported on one of the shows that we were rebuffed. Well, I never spoke to their GM about, you know, that's just how the process works. So I want, you know, for all of us, that's how we work internally. I know you guys have a job to do, but sometimes when you hear we're involved, now again, I did on Christian McCaffrey, I did speak to the Panthers GM, never made him an offer, but did stay in touch through the process, and ultimately it was going to be more than we were going to be able to do. So I think that's that. Nyheim is a guy, you guys know me sometimes with Steph or Emmanuel Sanders. Nyheim's a guy I've looked into in the past. I think the first time we checked on him was the training camp of COVID, and then checked on him again last offseason before we went after McKissick and then ultimately drafted James. But he's a guy, you know, we liked through the draft process all the way back in 2018, and you know, obviously we saw him up close a few times, made some big plays in the playoff game against us, and just he's more of a guy that's just a weapon with the ball in his hand, whether it's a punt returner, kick returner, as a receiver. He runs jet sweeps. He runs the Wildcat. So we just felt this was a chance to add another guy that Ken Dorsey and Josh and the crew can use, just as another offensive piece. And again, helps us as a punt returner too. We lost Crowder earlier in the year. Shakir's done a really good job, but as a rookie, that's a lot, and he's still trying to get his feet settled at wide receiver. And so to add a guy with his abilities of punt return, just thought it made too much sense. None of this was a negative on Zach. It just, I think we all saw, Zach is a very good player, and I want everybody to understand that. Zach's going to have success in this league. But the way our offense works, you got to get Devin a lather. Cook's got his role, and it was just hard to get Zach the role that he wants. And so I think this will give him an opportunity to showcase his skill set as well. So hopefully this is a win for the Bills, a win, for Zach and the Colts in where they're headed. But go. No, I'm good. You're first, Sal.
So I guess really kind of a two-part thing. First part of it is, what does this signal regarding James Cook? If the sense would be that he's a rookie, you want a veteran guy this particular season. The second part would be, school of thought was you guys need a bank at running back. Short yardage guy, Hines, really wouldn't give you that. So can you handle maybe both of those aspects of it?
Yeah, I think Devin's done a good job, with his role of the short yardage stuff. I think we feel good with him in that role. I mean, Zach is a banger, if you want to use that word. But we still, the way our offense is built, we just, his reps are limited. He's a guy. He's probably going to be better if you're able to get him 10+ touches a game, get that lather kind of going, and just, you want to get Devin going, and you want to get Cook the ball, and the other guys. We got Josh, and we want to have the ball in his hands as well. So, and as far as James, this is just another guy. This shouldn't affect James at all. This is a proven commodity that does some of the same things, but also does, there can be, as he learns the offense, there can be multiple packages where James and Nyheim are in the game at the same time, or, still James and Devin, or Devin and Nyheim. I think it just makes us, it gives us the opportunity to be, more versatile, multiple, variations of the different personnel packages that Coach Dorsey can put out there.
You mentioned Josh as part of the mix in the short yardage role, and obviously given his mobility, that's part of the offense. But I would ask the larger question, and we've talked about this in the past, I think a lot of people would have. Are you comfortable with the way he's managing himself, running the football at this point in his career?
Yeah, I mean, Josh is getting better and better at that. There's always going to be some plays. I mean, the other night, he makes it on that 3rd and 14 play, our second drive, our first touchdown. When he gets that close to the goal line, your instincts kick in, Adam, where you're like, I'm going to get this ball over. I'm not going to assume because we get it to the 2 or the 1 that we're going to get in. All of a sudden, you have a false start, almost anything. So, plays like that, or 3rd and short, 4th and short, in big moments of the game, he's gonna do it. But I think he's done a better job. We ran the one of those drives, I think it was when Isaiah scored on, but we ran a little Q draw, and he slid, didn't take a hit. So I think there's times he's doing really well. He's still going to take. He's a competitive dude, and I think he's intentionally trying to do better and avoid those. He knows, we got to keep him healthy, but we also want the defense to have to worry about that fact. I think that helps, our chances to move the ball.
What is the timeline for Jordan, if you could? Jordan Poyer.
Yeah, he's. I would say he's day to day, or or something like that. We'll see. I don't really. He's still healing up, but yeah, we'll see how he goes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, real quick. The system that Deane was in Atlanta, does that translate? I know he knows the system here. Well, similar in Atlanta, or is it a little bit different?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about their scheme, like everything. I don't want to talk, I know Coach Pease is a great coach, but more that one was just, you're watching his movement, you're watching what he's doing, making sure he still fits, and we feel like he's been in our system so long from back in his days as a rookie in Carolina. We bring him here, and he plays. So Atlanta's scheme really didn't matter in the equation.
As important as it was to fill the two needs that you addressed yesterday, how much did you feel you wanted to send a message to the team to maybe validate their 6-1 start and then push them further, knowing that this team is off to such a good start? If you don't send a message to the locker room in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think they always know we're trying to add players that can help us and competition, and that makes all of us better. And so even, John, I could have told you at 1 o'clock yesterday if you'd have called me. You didn't call, but I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, like, neither one of these moves at 1 o'clock were anywhere near happening. And so if they didn't happen, for whatever reason, I could have sat here and said we believe in who we got, and we do. But I'm always going to look, and if it makes sense for the Buffalo Bills, today and long term, we're going to try and make it happen. And there's, again, of the two guys we got, there's another 100 plus that we looked into. Again, like I said, I think we dug deep on just 10 safeties alone, but we looked at other positions. Is there a chance to acquire a depth, maybe not a starter, but a depth add piece just to shore us up, should injury happen. But these were the two that we felt made the most sense.
Brandon, when Tre'Davious is finally ready to go and ready to play, is there any sort of pitch count that will be placed on him, or when he's ready, he'll be ready and he'll be out there?
We don't want to get into that really, Josh. We're just still taking it day by day. It's Wednesday practice, and let's see how he does today. He did more in practice last week than he did his first week. He had no offseason, no training camp. So, he's good to go, but we're trying to ramp him up and get him ready to play football. And so I wouldn't really want to speculate beyond just one day, one practice, one rep at a time.
Brandon, going back to Nyheim, just how much of his ability as a pass catcher did that factor into your decision to make that move for him?
Yeah, it did. I mean, just, again, another guy with speed, experience. He can go out there and play slot. I mean, back at NC State, he was a punt returner, kick returner, receiver, running back. He can do a lot of things. So when he's in the huddle, the defense knows he's in the game, but they don't know exactly where he's going to line up. And I think you'll see that as James gets going too. You don't want to overload a rookie, but he'll be used more as a receiver, slot, things like that. And so this just gives us a guy who's proven, who can add in, and we'll see. But if we needed him to go play slot receiver for a game, once he picks up the offense, he's got that skill set.
Greg, can you give us some insight into how much it does put more on the plate for a guy like Khalil to do both during practice and prepare for a game where maybe this will alleviate some stuff, especially for a rookie? You touched on how much is there?
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is a big transition from Boise to the NFL. Let's be honest. And Khalil, I mean, he's a very impressive. I know if you guys have been around him and talked to him, he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. When his number's called, he's ready for it. But naturally, that's a lot. That's a lot of pressure. And again, we know the winds of Orchard Park, are only going to pick up probably. And so he's done a good job, but it's still, catching NFL punter legs consistently, in some of these swirling winds, it's still a work. And, I know Coach Smiley has done a great job during the week of getting him catching balls in our stadium, just how the winds swirl and things like that. But Nyheim's done it for a longer time. It's a little easier, a little more natural. And so if he's healthy and available, that gives us, a guy so that Khalil can just, focus on his roles that we need him on offense.
Brandon, Dean's wife posted on Instagram after they found out that they were heading back to Buffalo. She said she was ugly crying and so happy to be going back home to their true NFL family. What does it mean to hear about players who come back and say time and time again that they're just so happy to be back into the freedom here?
No, that's awesome to hear, and that's what you want. The business gets in the way. Again, Zach Moss leaving. Zach Moss didn't do anything. He did everything he was asked, and I'm, other than when we're playing him, I'm rooting like hell for him. And so the same thing when Dean Marlowe got a chance to go to Detroit and be a starter. He knew we had Jordan and Mike, and he got a chance to go start. You're rooting for him. But also sometimes it works out, and I always tell these guys, you never know. The same thing told Zach yesterday, that you never know. We wouldn't hesitate to bring you back if it made sense. So I'm glad to hear not only is Dean excited, but that his wife is excited. I know she's talked to Dean this morning. She's due coming up. So exciting times for him. But love hearing when guys, Jordan Phillips and Shaq coming back this year. That's the way the business gets in the way, and sometimes feelings get hurt, but you like it when guys appreciated their time here.
I know you talked about the reports being out there and, just, take them for what they are. There is one out there that you guys have reached out to Odell Beckham Jr. Is there any truth to that? And is that something that, if an opportunity presented itself, talked about it before, but you guys would be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, without getting into that one, it's OBJ's a heck of a talent. Where he was drafted, obviously he had the great catch, and he might have been the MVP of that Super Bowl. Does he not, tear the ACL? Really unfortunate for a lot of things for him to have to re-tear that. But he's a heck of a player. Everybody in this room knows who OBJ is, and so I don't have to tell you guys. And again, me. If we think he can help this team, we'd be crazy not to at least look into it. And there's and if we did, you have to remember there's financials, there's roles, there's all sorts of things that would all have to line up. But yeah, you can, a guy of his talent, of course, we would look into that.
Brandon, what are your impressions of how this team has handled adversity this year through the first 7 games of the season?
I think they've done a great job, through 7 games. And, we've had obviously the injuries and, even the Miami game we lost, that might have been one of my prouder moments of the way these guys fought. And I thought Sean and the coaches did a heck of a job. I mean, Dane gets hurt the way he did. We find out later in the week that Micah, who's a captain team leader, is out for the year. That's your brother, someone who's been here, and we've seen him from helping us start this culture to where it's at now. And so that life bothers you. And then you go down there with, we pulled up some practice squad guys, and we got down to 5 linemen. Tommy Doyle, I think he played 5 snaps with a torn ACL. I asked Tommy, why didn't you lay down? He's like, I knew we didn't have anybody left. And so he didn't know he tore his ACL, I don't think, but I think he had a PCL before or something. He thought maybe he did that, but you start with 8, and we're literally down to 5, and the other 3 were ruled out of the game. So, in that locker room, guys were literally, you guys that were there were just laying, and they couldn't move. And I know we lost the game, but I was really, really proud, and I was like, this group will rebound once they get their fluids back in their life. But no, I think they've done a really good job. It's we're not quite halfway there, a long way to go, but proud of what Sean and our coaches have done, and what our captains and our leaders have done to help this team start 6-1.
Do you think this team is better prepared than maybe, having gone through some of these issues than maybe in the past?
Better prepared for the rest of this season?
Better prepared for facing more adversity
Oh.
or better prepared for what happens in the playoffs?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think, obviously our guys that have been here have had a lot of meaningful football games that they've played, and sometimes failure teaches you the most, and we've had that too. And so I know I've learned a lot from my own failures, and I think these guys would probably say the same. You bring a guy in like Vaughn, who's won 2 championships, but is also, until the Rams, after his team beat us in Carolina in 15, he didn't go back to the playoffs until being traded to the Rams last season. So he knows what that looks like as well, and I think that's given him a new, appreciation. It is not easy to get there. I know I've won 2 Super Bowls, but this is not as easy as some may think. Or sometimes if you have success early in your career, you may think, oh, we just make the playoffs every year, and it's not the case.
Is it hard not to make, and not to say that the moves you made aren't big moves or anything
Yeah, I mean, you're always weighing those calls. I mean, when you call on a guy like Christian McCaffrey, that's probably not going to be cheap. But you look into it, and it's got to make sense today, but it's also got to make sense for us long term. You guys know the guys that we have coming up with expiring contracts or guys that are available, and so that goes into that. We really need our draft capital, and we do want to, I'll reiterate, we do want to win this year. We're doing everything we can, but I don't want to be here next year as a team that people are saying, oh, they lost it, and we're going to call them to see if they're selling off. They don't have it. Hopefully we're, looking at the deadline again to see if there's something that we need, to help us.
I know Khalil, when you guys drafted, you talked about him being able to play all over the place, do multiple things. What have your, early returns here, but your assessment of him specifically out of the slot, how he's adjusted to that?
Yeah, I think he's done great. I think he's got a great feel. He's very instinctive, good hands. I think the biggest thing he needs right now is just more time with Josh, getting that rapport. He probably worked more with Case and that crew through the preseason because Crowder and, Isaiah were getting a lot of those roles there, and he was, a backup as an outside guy. So I think that rapport will continue to grow, and I know Josh has full faith into it. He's told me that. So, the thing I like about him is when his number's called, he usually answers it, and I'm excited about where he's heading.
Brandon, how do you feel about the depth of your offensive line moving forward?
Yeah, that's a hard position, Joe. Especially when you lose a guy like Tommy Doyle. Tell the guys tackles don't grow on trees, and when they go down this time of year, it can be very thin, out there. And there's not a lot of answers, and there's not a lot of people that are going to say, "Oh, you can come get one of my tackles." I like the guys we have. I like some of the guys we even have on practice squad that we're developing, and I do believe if injury strikes, that they'll be ready if their number's called.
Where does Ike Bucker fit into that?
He's still working his way back. I do think Ike has a good chance to come back this season, and don't want to give a date yet, but he's I think he'll get there and have an opportunity for us to at least open that practice window, see what it looks like, and see where we're at, where the linemen we have are at that time.
Is there a possibility Jamison Crowder makes it back this season?
I don't know yet on that one, John. I think that's too early. Jameis is a competitive dude. He's been in here working, and I know he would love to come back if the opportunity was there. But I don't have a timeline on him yet.
Can Xavier Rhodes play safety if he needed to?
I don't want to say he could or couldn't. We haven't really got there. Unfortunately, he got hurt that second practice. He's smart, and he's got a lot of experience in the league. So I wouldn't want to say he couldn't, but I haven't seen him do that.
Brandon, how do you think Trey has handled the patience piece with coming back as he gets closer? I think Sean joked that he could have wanted to be out there for training camp. What goes into that, kind of that mental portion, because we talk so much about the physical?
Yeah, I think the mental portion is the hardest thing when you're getting over something like this, because you just rehab for so long, and you want to be out there with your teammates, and you want to know it's going to go well and all that. And so I think that's what we're working on now, is just regaining that confidence to plant and drive on that leg, not run straight forward. I think that's easy. It's just anytime you do something. I know, I tore an ACL 200 years ago, and at a high school level. And when you're coming back, you do naturally, think of that until you get hit a couple times. You get it rolled into, and you get up and you go, man, it's still attached. I'm still good to go. And so I think all that is part of it. But I think Trey's a competitive. I've seen guys rehab from ACLs really good. I'm not going to say it's the best, but I've seen nobody better than Trey. The work he's put into it. He took his family down to Disney World at one point, and he was rehabbing down there at some Airbnb or something. So proud of him, and I'm just glad we're getting closer and closer.
You have the Vikings coming in here next week, and I know you've talked a lot about the Steph trade and how that all went down, but I'm curious, is that one of those rare ones where it works out for both sides pretty equally? How do you look back on that now, especially with them coming here next week?
Yeah, I mean, Elena, I think you want them all to be win-wins. You don't want to go, oh, man, every time I dealt with this team, they fleeced me or I fleeced them. You want it. And again, Zach Moss, I hope he goes on and has great success in Indy, and that Nyheim has great success for us. That's the best. But I do, in that particular instance, I think that worked out well. I think Steph fit us well. The timing was good of where we were in our build of this team, and they got a fresh piece in Justin Jefferson, who's very talented and has jumped right in there and been one of the best receivers in the league. So that's probably as win-win as you would find.
And then you
Last
mentioned
one.
how the trades came together late yesterday, especially, you know, after 1 p.m. How much of it was Nyheim wanting a different, did the Colts express he wanted a different role? Did they come to you? How did it kind of come together?
Well, I was aware that he, was looking for a fresh start, and so, checked, with Chris a little bit on that, Ballard, and we talked, one time Monday night, and then again yesterday a couple times, and didn't really think it was going to happen, and then we really picked that up shortly after 3:00, and time was going fast.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.